Thank you for joining us. In our continuing series on tourism and culture, we're again visiting the Dominican Republic. Christopher Columbus discovered the island in 1496 and named it Hispaniola, which means Little Spain. Then they founded the first Spanish colony in the Western Hemisphere at Santo Domingo. This time we'll focus on hospitality from the perspective of hotel owners. Our guests include Jade and Raoul Valette at the Batey Boutique Hotel in Boca Chica, and His Excellency Ellis Perez, former Minister of Tourism of the Dominican Republic, where Richard just told us he had the very best dinner in the Dominican Republic after a swim in the crystal clear ocean. We'll join him and see more of the Dominican Republic following these messages.
Life Extension magazine brings you new discoveries in health and anti-aging. Our science-based research and supplements are so advanced they're many years ahead of the medical mainstream, with quality control standards that exceed FDA mandates. Life Extension has covered groundbreaking medical research for more than 35 years. For your health and future, you deserve the best. Learn more at lifeextension.com.
With us now is Raoul Valette and Jade Valette. It's such a pleasure to be sitting with you here in this incredibly beautiful restaurant you have right here in Boca Chica. It's adorable, really. In fact, let's drink a toast to that. Success, health and happiness to all of us.
And thank you for coming.
Delicious wine. In fact, I know exactly which vineyard it came from, what year, and what side of the vineyard these grapes came from.
Oh, you know it already? Cool. We don't have to explain that, great.
The truth is, I'm not an expert in wine at all. Anyway, I've interviewed the former Minister of Tourism here, His Excellency Ellis Perez, very fine gentleman, very experienced, in fact, a TV personality. He did many sporting events and other. So now we are here in Boca Chica to get a feel for a resort city, which is really very, very charming. And the most beautiful restaurant I've seen in a long time is this one. And you actually designed it, really.
Yes, I mean, it used to be our house, and now we converted in the hotel and restaurant. But we used to live here for 3 years ago.
Boutique Hotel.
Yes, Boutique Hotel. We have international cuisine with Dominican taste.
Interesting.
Yes.
I had a meal here just now, and I have to tell you, it was delicious, really. And I have a dessert. What is this dessert I'm about to have?
Flan de coco, it's called. I don't know how to call it in English, actually, but it's a typical Dominican sweet, flan.
Coconut cake, no?
Yes, it's with coconut. We put coconut, but usually it's with just milk.
Absolutely lovely. And coconut is now the big thing in style. Everybody's drinking coconut water. Yeah. So 100 meters from the ocean, right?
Just across the street.
Across the street,
yes.
So I had the pleasure of sitting in the ocean with my son. Haven't done that in a long time. Beautiful, pristine waters. Really lovely, this place. Really.
And we also have a coral reef, like natural barrier here.
So divers come and they see underwater. Wonderful.
We actually have an underwater museum here in Boca Chica for divers in La Caleta. So it's actually a place where divers can come and find a lot of fun excursions to do and a lot of beautiful places to see underwater.
Also, we have a freshwater cave for diving. The most beautiful cave in the Caribbean.
Well, interesting.
For diving, yes.
We dive into a cave.
Better than Cancun.
Yeah, well, so interesting. How did you get into the hotel business, Jade?
Well, actually, I got it because of him. He built the hotel. Used to be a hostel, So it used to have just 10 rooms and a shared kitchen. And then, as I was telling you before, we took down the house, like he took down our house and he built this side of the hotel. And the restaurant is actually where the gift shop was. He used to have a gift shop and an art gallery. So actually the kitchen is where the art gallery was. And a jewelry store too. It's all together here.
And you have guests from all over the world coming here.
Yes.
We do have
European from the United States,
Asians
East
too.
European,
We have some Chinese and Japanese people too coming
Russian.
now. Russians, a
A lot of Russian now is coming to Boca Chica, to Dominican Republic. And now we're waiting for the Chinese.
Huh.
Yes.
That'd be interesting. A whole lot of tourism from China. Interesting. Yeah, I'd like to visit there. It's on my list of things to do. I've never been to Asia yet, but South America, yes. So, tell me more about hospitality in Boca Chica. How is the tourism industry in general here?
Boca Chica is a little village. We have 3 big hotels in Boca Chica town. So most of the people who come here, they come because they want to share with the Dominican culture. They don't like to go to the big resorts because they don't get in contact with Dominican people. So here they have that opportunity. Also, we have our location is about 20 minutes from the first city in America, Santo Domingo. We have 1 hour and 20 minutes from Punta Cana, another 1 hour from 20 minutes from Samaná. So the location is very strategically convenient. Yes. That's why Boca Chica always has people, local people and tourists too. Also, we have 5 minutes from Boca Chica, we have the first international airport in the Dominican Republic.
And since your hotel here, the Batey Hotel, has become so popular, I would imagine that you're going to be inspired to open more Batey hotels.
Maybe.
Maybe it would be nice.
Yes.
But you know, the thing is, this is really like authentic because it's the style. You know, you know what batey means?
No idea.
Okay, the batey is the little village that it's created inside a sugarcane field. So most of Dominican cities were born as little villages inside a sugarcane field. Boca Chica actually was born as a batey. So the thing is that I think that if you bring batey to another place that's not Dominican Republic, it will lose a little bit of its authenticity. So maybe if we want to bring it outside, we have to mix it with something else. I don't know, maybe with the authenticity, something authentic of the other places. But I do imagine a lot of batey hotels in Dominican Republic.
The Batey Plaza. But actually, this is like a museum. This is like an art gallery. You put a lot of thought into this. Well, tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, it's a lot of art. It's like an art gallery and antique museum. Because this is my hobby, and we used to sell arts and antique. So those arts that you see here used to be in my house. Now we share with everybody here. You know, the old face that you see here in the restaurant is the face that the people has in the Batey, the little village. The people who used to work in the sugarcane field.
It's all authentic.
Yes.
You told me it's all authentic art, correct?
Yes, every piece of art has been made here in the Dominican Republic or Haiti. So every piece of art has been made in the island of La Española.
So before we conclude, tell me a little bit about your background. What are your interests in life other than being a phenomenal assistant hotel manager and owner?
Okay, well, I do like diving too, as my father. And I like a lot the water, so I really like to go to the beach and swim. And I don't know.
And you speak 3 languages,
I
Italian?
do Italian, Spanish, and English. Been trying to learn some French.
Such a cultured family with art and everything. You know, the only bad news I have for you is this. Because I really like this hotel, I want to come back and I may permanently lock myself in one of your rooms, only come down to eat desserts like this. I must say this has been a real great pleasure, and I have to come back again, as I said, and a real pleasure, Jay. Thank you.
Thank you, it's been our pleasure.
I'll be right back. With us now is Minister of Tourism, Mr. Ellis Perez. Mr. Perez, it's a real pleasure to finally meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you, Richard. It's a great pleasure. I didn't know of your show, but I have seen that it's a very popular one. Reaches about 40 million homes in the United States.
Approximately, yes. It doesn't mean 40 million people watch, but the exposure is really good. And our key station is ABC TV 25 in Palm Beach.
I'm a former ABC man.
Just amazing. Actually, your credentials, all the things you have done throughout your career is absolutely astonishing. It's not a contest, but I'm very impressed with all that you've done. You've served as Minister of Tourism right here in the Dominican Republic. You are a famous, maybe the most famous communicator. And I just noticed that yesterday's newspaper here in the Dominican Republic, the Listin Diario, on this page right here, is your picture.
Yes.
Pictured here with President Bush.
It brings me back, Richard, to 1981. I was director of the Dominican Tourist Office in New York. At the same time, I was Minister Counselor of the Dominican Permanent Mission to the UN, to the United Nations. And I got a call from Santo Domingo. And it was the Minister of Tourism calling me to tell me that the day before, they had decided in the palace that President Bush, Vice President then, George W. Bush, was coming on a visit to the Dominican Republic, Colombia, and Brazil. And they had a request from the State Department that indicated that they wanted each country to appoint an interviewer, a television interviewer, to come to Washington and do an interview to the Vice President in order to promote his upcoming visit to each country. So I was elected to do that. They gave me the name and the telephone number of the secretary to Vice President Bush. So I came to the White House, I identified myself, and they brought me into the Vice Presidential office. I met Mr. Bush then, and I did the interview. So we talked. I said, have you ever been to the Dominican Republic? He said, no, but you know what? My roommate at Yale was a Dominican, who I understand later became the foreign minister of the Dominican Republic, Manuel Tavares. And I said, certainly, I know Manuel Tavares. So he said, he was not only my friend, and we were both in the same school, but he was my roommate. So give him my best regards when you get back. So I came back. The interview was shown on Dominican television as promotion for his upcoming arrival. And about a couple of months later, the then President Antonio Guzman named me Minister of Tourism. So about 5 or 7 days later, I got a telegram from the White House. It was the Vice President, George W. Bush, congratulating me for having been appointed Minister of Tourism, which surprised me very nicely.
Of course, very nice. How very kind of them.
So
yes.
I thanked him, and when he announced he would run for the presidency through the American Embassy here in Santo Domingo, I sent him my best wishes for him to succeed in his ambition. And of course, the rest was history. He became president, and that was it. So I had this beautiful memory. So when he passed away last week, I looked for my old photograph that he dedicated to me, and I remember that interview. So I wrote this for the main paper, and it was published yesterday.
And here it is in the most popular newspaper in the Dominican Republic.
Right.
How interesting connections and coincidences are. I just interviewed the new ambassador of the United States to the Dominican Republic, Ambassador Bernstein, with an incredible background. But anyway, I'd like you to share with our audience what is the importance of promoting tourism in this day and age.
It is as simple as this. When President Medina, our current president, came into the head of government, one of the main things he did was indicate that he thought tourism was the backbone of the Dominican economy. So he was going to focus on promoting tourism and do the best he could so that we would stay competitive and advance the more we could along the lines of being a successful destination in the Caribbean. And he has done so. So we have been progressing to the point that we are now the biggest tourism destination of the Caribbean and Central America. And we are only behind one of the two biggest Latin American countries in general in number of tourists. We are receiving we received last year in 2017 over 6 million tourists. We are reaching almost 7 million this year, 2018, and we received over $7 billion last year for tourism revenue. So that gives you a sign of how important tourism is for the Dominican economy and for Dominican life as a whole. We have become number one. You would say, well, what do you offer? What does the Dominican Republic have?
That was my next question. What is unique about the Dominican Republic from a tourism point of view?
I would say to the people of the north, people that have the cold weather at this time of the year, December, January, February, we have good weather year-round. So the weather, I would say, is one of our main aspects. Number two would be the quality of our beaches. Our beaches are just beautiful. The water is normally nice and warm, nice to enjoy. And the third aspect is the Dominican people. We, as a whole, Dominicans are nice people. We are not complicated. We like to enjoy life. We smile easily. And maybe a case in point, if you ask someone along the road, do you know where this place is? They may say, oh, come on, I'll take you over there. And that's how Dominicans are. We are simple people, we are nice people, and we are open. There are some places and some islands where people are more aloof, more distant, but we enjoy talking to foreigners and people that we don't know. We think it's an opportunity to make a new friend.
I fully agree with you on your point of view there with regard to people being open and friendly. I'd like to ask you to share with our audience some of your amazing achievements in your career.
Well, I don't know. It's difficult for one to calibrate, indicate your own achievements. Normally that is done by other parties, other people. But I would say one of the main values that I acquired when I was a young man, you know, we speak Spanish here in the Dominican Republic, is that a friend of mine was the son of a Puerto Rican mother and a Dominican father. And I once went to his home, and his brother came through the living room going into the rest of the house. And when he stopped in the living room, they started talking, and I didn't understand. So when his brother finally went over to his destination in the house, I said, Michael, what were we talking? I didn't understand anything. So he said, well, you know, my mother is Puerto Rican, my father is a Dominican, so my mother insists that while we are at home, we speak English. And that's what we were speaking, because elsewhere we speak Spanish all the time. And then he told me the phrase that changed my life. He said, Ellis, if you would speak English, we would talk and no one would understand us, like what happened when my brother came in that you didn't understand. I said, really? So that moment I decided that I would learn English. And I went about learning English in different ways. And a year later, I was on the radio doing your hit parade. You know, the 7 top tunes of the week that was presented in the United States. And I did a version of that, doing the program in English. It was the first program done in English in the Dominican Republic, 1953. I was 17 years old. So that was a great achievement for me to open a full life ahead of me because I spoke English, and that made me different. And I would say eventually I became a cruise director because I worked at one of the main hotels here, and the ships came in, and the cruise, I would fix some activities for the cruise director to bring his groups. So we became friends. So one day he said, you know, I need an assistant, and you would be perfect because you speak the language, you know entertainment, and would you be interested? I said, well, tell me more. Finally, I left the country and went with him. He said, in a year's time, you begin as my assistant, but I can make you a cruise director in 1 year's time. And it happened just like that. At 24 years old, I was the youngest cruise director on board any ship. We were cruising from Miami to the Caribbean and part of South America. So at that time, I said, what can I do with my experience, having been a cruise director for 4 years, having seen many other islands and countries, and having met a lot of interesting people? What can I do that is not the regular thing that the other radio stations do? So one of the ideas that came to my mind, I said, gee, now we have Juan Marichal, Felipe Alou, Mari Alou, Julian Javier, Manny Jimenez, Ozzy Virgil, already Dominican baseball players that were beginning to have distinguished careers in the major leagues. So I told a friend of mine that I had worked with in my previous work as a radio announcer, Billy Berroa. He was a play-by-play announcer. I said, Billy, what do you think if we would broadcast every day, for certain, a game in which there would be one of those players participating? And he responded to me, oh my goodness, can you figure out Juan Marichal every fourth day? Because at that time, pitchers came every 4 days. Now they do it every 5 days. So when he said that, I said, we'll do it. He said, we'll do it. How? I said, well, I don't know how at this point, but I'll find out and we'll do it. I went to the American Embassy, to the All-American Cables office, RCA office downtown, to see if they could help me, but they had no idea. So I said, if I go to New York, I think I'll find out. So I left for New York 2 days later, and I found out. And we did the games, and that was tremendous.
Absolutely amazing. The list of things you've done and the initiative and the creativity and the goodwill you've created personally, bringing cultures together and entertaining people, educating people. So positive, amazing.
Thank you. I had an opportunity once when I was directing the Dominican tourist office here. We had a counterpart office in New York, and my counterpart there, who was an Ecuadorian, who was a very good professional in the tourism area, he said, Ellis, I had someone from NBC come and see me, and he said that next year they will be celebrating the 200th anniversary of the American independence. That was 1975. This was going to be 1976, the 200th anniversary of the American independence. So he said, the fellow from NBC said that besides seeing and projecting, capturing the images of how Americans celebrate such an independence celebration as this, 200 years, they would like to see how the rest of the world would see that and maybe celebrate at some point. He said, if you come with some idea that may seem interesting, we will cover that from the Dominican Republic. So my counterpart said, well, my counterpart in Santo Domingo is a man related to television, so maybe he can think of something. So when I came back to New York, I met with a fellow from NBC, and he said, well, what would you do that would capture our attention in regards to this celebration? I said, all right, what do you think if we get our president, Joaquin Balaguer at the time, to hold a mass at the first cathedral of the Americas and invite the whole diplomatic corps to participate, headed, of course, by the American ambassador. Would you like that? He said, I'll buy that. So we did that. It became the first broadcast ever done from the Dominican Republic to be broadcast in a foreign place.
Before we conclude, give me a final message for our audience with regard to tourism.
Well, I would say if you haven't been to the Caribbean, it's about time that you do. And when selecting, don't forget that the Dominican Republic will give you the widest variety of natural beauty, mountains, rivers, lakes, beautiful ocean beaches, and the nice open Dominican people that you will find here. So if you come to the Caribbean, you shouldn't miss the Dominican Republic. There must be a good reason why we are taking in the Dominican Republic the biggest lump of tourists that are coming to the area. And there is something not to be missed.
Mr. Perez, a real pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Richard.
I'll be right back.
This concludes our special show for today on the Dominican Republic. I'm Paul Peretz. Thank you for being with us.